A recovered alcoholic. My name is Pat Rogan.
Pat.
And thanks to the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous outlined in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the program of AA, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And I get emotional every time I say that. I just can't even express how grateful I am to this program and this fellowship that has really, I used to get so pissed off when I would hear this, giving me a life beyond my wildest dreams. And I never forgot. I was so mad at that guy when I would hear him every night introduce himself saying that. And I'd say, do you know where you are? You're in AA. Nobody wants to be here. We all end up here. Nobody wants to be here. God, I want to be here. I mean, this is my favorite place to be. And this is one of my favorite rooms to be in. I mean, I just love it here. I love here and the 101 Club. I like ghetto AA, man. That's you know what I mean? I don't want to be in Boca. You know what I mean? I want to be in Fort Lauderdale in the hood. You know? By the tracks. That's right. That's where the 101 is too. You know? Welcome back, Jace. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah. Glad you made it back. You know. We're going to bury a former sponsee next week. We found him dead yesterday. That's what happens here, you know. If you stay along here, I mean, get a black suit if you're going to hang around. I'm just saying, it's the miracles that take place in this room are awesome, but the tragedies that we see here, sad. It's sad because we have the answer. We do have the answer here, but it's for those who want it, not for those who need it, right? I mean, an old friend of mine used to say, if it was for people who needed it, we'd be at Joe Robbie Stadium having a meeting right now. There'd be 70 freaking thousand people there, you know? But it's for people who want it. And that's why our success rates are in the single digits, you know, because not everybody takes that leap of faith that we talked about last week. And just trust us, man. Just trust us. You know, that this shit can work, man. It can work for you. I don't know. So I'm going to do something different tonight. I was going to read this, but I'm not reading this. This is what I do. I make plans during the day of what I'm going to talk about, and then all that shit goes out the window halfway here. And because I was listening to how it works. And we spent 2.5 weeks on the first two steps. So I was listening to how it works, which ends up at the first two steps. And I thought, what an inconsistency that is, what we kind of read, you know. And I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying it's inconsistent with the rest of the book, right? It sounds like a set of suggestions, right? Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. It almost sounds like take it or leave it. You know, and I've heard that crap in the rooms where take what you want and leave the rest. No. There's the wording in the big book starts out with, we're going to tell you precisely what we did, you know, and we're going to tell you we're going to answer questions that you have specifically. Then we're going to give you some clear-cut directions. We're going to tell you that, lack of power, that was our dilemma. And we're going to tell you exactly how to find that power that's going to solve your problem. Those are the words that Bill uses, you know, precise, specific, exactly clear-cut directions on how to find this power greater than yourself. And then we hear like a set of suggestions. So what's wild is that wasn't what Bill originally wrote. You know, that wasn't how it works that was originally written. Bill struggled with it. And we always talked about there was this 6-step program. There's no proof that there was ever any 6-step program in the early days of AA. We see the tenets that Bill pulled out of the 28 tenets of the Oxford groups in the foreword to the second edition, which, by the way, is written in 55, right, in the late 40s, early 50s. which he talks about surrender and inventory and confession and restitution and helpfulness to others and a belief and a dependence upon God, right? And you could probably equate that to some kind of a 6-step program. The only time you ever see the 6 steps mentioned or written is in AA Comes of Age, was written in the late 40s, right? And in Earl Treat's story, He Sold Himself Short, in the back of the book on page 263, you see the 6-step program there. But there's nowhere in any of the stories, other than Earl's story, nowhere in any of the first and second edition stories, the older stories, do you see the 6-step program mentioned. What you do hear and see is what the Oxford groups were using in Ohio, the 4 absolutes, right? Absolute honesty, unselfishness, purity, and love. And I love this because we're going to be talking about this in a minute, if I ever get there. I plan on getting there. We're going to talk about the 3rd step in a minute, right? And it says any behavior could be judged on how well it is adhered to these principles, right? Because we're going to be talking about principles in the 3rd step, right? And what guiding principles are we going to live our life so that we're conflict free, right? So they were using the 4 absolute, and they were using these 5 C's: conviction, confession, contrition, conversion, and continuance. And this was continued in mostly in Ohio for many years, even after the big book was written. And then the 5 procedures: 1, give it to God; 2, listen to God's direction; 3, check guidance; 4, restitution; and 5, sharing for witness and for confession. This is what they were using before Bill wrote how it works. And then we know that he struggled with it. He tells us he struggled with it. He used to get these imaginary ulcers when he was doing the writing and fall into these depressions, mostly when he was doing the writings. I mean, if you read some of his history, it's amazing. As broken as he was, what he was able to accomplish in this program right here. I have so much respect for him, and I hate anybody that tries to find the flaws in Bill, because maybe it's time to look in the mirror, because we're all broken. We're just all broken different, So I'm not judging him, and I'm not judging anybody that's sitting in this room. I'm as broken as anybody sitting in this room. So what I wanted to read tonight, which is something I've never done in a step series, is the original How It Works that he wrote. And you'll see the inconsistency that I'm talking about, right? It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our directions. That's how he starts it out. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They're such unfortunates. They're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a way of life which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you decided you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to follow directions. And some of these you may balk, you may think you can find an easier, softer way. We doubt if you can. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that you're dealing with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for you. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. You must find him now. Half measures will avail you nothing. You stand at the turning point. Throw yourself under his protection and care with complete abandon. Now we think you can take it. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery, right? Admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care and direction of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely willing that God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly, on our knees, asked him to remove our shortcomings, holding nothing back. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make a complete amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our contact with God, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual experience, as a result of this course of action, we tried to carry this message to others, especially alcoholics, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. You may exclaim, what an order, I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. None of us have been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after have been designed to sell you 3 pertinent ideas. Bill's a salesman. A, that you are alcoholic and cannot manage your own life. B, that probably no human power can relieve your alcoholism. C, that God can and will. If you are not convinced of these vital issues, you ought to reread the book to this point or else throw it away. This is what he claims was divinely inspired, right? After a long period of meditation, he felt as if God grabbed the pen and guided it onto the paper. It was one of the biggest controversies in the writing of the big book, right? Because you've got the Midwest who want more God. There's not enough God in there, Bill. And you've got the Northeast who's saying, you got to get the God out of there. We cannot have God in it. I mean, this is, we get this argument that goes on, and it stops the writing of the big book for a while. A Dr. Howard, a psychiatrist, friend of the program, and if you ever read this, the book that started it all, the big red one that's out there, his name is all over it. He did a lot of editing in it. And Howard mediates this battle between New York and Cleveland and Akron, and tells Bill, look, Bill, you can't tell an alcoholic that they must do anything. They will not listen to it. And maybe you should say we instead of you. And you can't get them on their knees. We got people coming in here that just don't get on their knees. You got to take that out of there. And maybe you shouldn't tell them to throw the book away. Directions. People don't like directions. Must. You must tell them. They must do it. Bill concedes eventually, and that's what we end up with the how it works that we see today. Right? Now, I believe this whole program was divinely inspired. It ended up just the way it was supposed to, But I don't know. I mean, we could ask ourselves, instead of 2 million globally, would we have 10 million if we left it the way Bill had it? Or instead of 2 million, would we have 200,000? I don't know. I'm not that smart. But I think that it ended up just the way it was supposed to end up. To reel everybody in, to be all inclusive. And the reason why Bill wanted to get away from the absolutes and the convictions and the procedures is because he wanted this open for everybody. He didn't want to restrict this to Christians or any particular denomination. He wanted everybody that walked in here to be able to find this power greater than themselves that would solve your problem. Right? But that lands us where we are. Right? So let's say how it works kind of sounds like a set of suggestions. And then he lands where we are right now on the second 2 steps. The ABCs are the first 2 steps. Right? And then it says, right after that, being convinced. Being convinced we are at step 3. Convinced of what? Being convinced that you're powerless, that you cannot stay stopped on your own. No human power will keep you stopped. And only a power greater than human power will solve the problem. That's a requirement. Those 2 steps are a requirement for recovery in any of the A's. Right? In AA. Those are and there's no requirements for membership. Anybody can be here. I mean, one requirement, right? A desire to stop drinking. Right? And we can't even prove that. We're not allowed to interrogate you on that. Let's see if you really mean it. But if you want recovery, There's 2 requirements. This is where I stop anybody that I'm sponsoring. We're not moving on unless you're convinced. Why would we? What's the sense? If you still think you can will yourself sober, if you still think your children or your spouse or your parent or a judge is going to keep you stopped, have at it. Why be here? There's pretty women here. I get it. And the coffee's okay. Yeah. But why would you? Why would you devote your life to this unless you had to? So I want to hear, yes, I am convinced. And then we're ready to go on with the 3rd step. And we're ready to go on with the 3rd step. And what's that mean? That means you're going to turn your will, your thinking, that means you're going to turn your thinking and your life over to the care of God as you understand him. Whatever you think that is. That's the beauty. Whatever you think God is, that's what I'm talking about. That's what this book is talking about. Creative intelligence, spirit of the universe, energy, Jesus, Muhammad, Allah. I don't care. Nobody cares here. It just can't be human. And it has to be a power greater than yourself. You got to be convinced of that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. If I can turn my thinking over to the care of God, my actions would change. And then my life would change in result of that. Here's the problem with Pat. My thinking all turns to an emotion. All my thinking goes to my gut. And then my emotions dictate my next behavior. Which is usually based on a lie. Which is usually not true. So somehow, I've got to change this. The main problem of the alcoholic we just talked about centers in the mind. Not the body. The mind that says it's okay to drink. Not the body that keeps convincing us it's not. We know that we have an abnormal reaction. If you're convinced of the first 2 steps, then you're convinced that you suffer from an abnormal reaction to any mind or mood altering substance. That once you put that substance in your body, you're off to the races. You got to be convinced of that. That's step 1. So just don't pick up. If you're a non-alcoholic, that works. You're a non-addict, that works. But if you can't not pick up, have a seat. You're one of us. But you got to be convinced of that. Then he goes on. This doesn't sound like a direction at all. The first requirement. You know what a requirement is? You're required to do that. If you want this thing, if you want this solution, you're required. First requirement is that you be convinced that any life you're in charge of is going to be a failure. That's not the exact words. The exact word, any life run on self-will can hardly be a success, which tells me that any life that I'm directing, any life that my will, that my thinking is directing, is doomed to failure. And then he just goes on. And he gives the actor and director analogy, right? He likes to use those analogies, right? That we are the actor who wants to run the show. It's not our job. It's the director's job to run the show. It's our job to memorize our lines and do what the hell he says. But we want to run the show. But my thinking is flawed. And what's this self-will that he's talking about? He doesn't really go into that in the big book, but when you get into the 4th step and the 12 and 12, man, does he go into it, man. He goes into it. He's talking about these instinctual drives. What drives us? What drives us? And what principles are behind what drives us? Now we're talking about a different story here. Now we're not talking about mental and physical. We're talking behavioral. Right? Now we're talking about, we got this mental obsession and this physical allergy. But why is it we can't stay stopped? What's going on with you and me, and I can speak for myself, what is going on internally that keeps me from staying stopped? What is going on in my gut that at some point says, fuck Sorry, I had to get one in there. It's my favorite paragraph. We know what the consequences are going to be, but I am in so much pain emotionally. Forget the physical. Punch me, but don't hurt my feelings. Right? Stab me, but don't make me look stupid. Right? And I'm serious. I'll take the physical pain anytime over the emotional. Kill me, bitch, but don't leave. You know? Or if you're leaving, shoot me first. You know what I mean? Because I can't stand the loss. The emotions are just, and I don't have any other solution. I mean, I'll try spending some money. I'll go on a spending spree, go on a sex spree, a porn site, something, trying to change the way I feel. But nothing works like alcohol in any form. In any form. So I got to do something about that, which means my behavior has to change. So what the hell is driving that? Well, we have these God-given, therefore good, instinctual drives that make up self-will, right? The need, the social instinct, the security instinct, the sex instinct, all necessary for our survival. Without the social instinct, we don't come together, we don't work together, there's nobody in charge, there's nobody doing the work, there's nobody leading the work. Nothing gets done unless the social instinct is satisfied, unless we come together and work together. Just like this fellowship. That's what makes this thing work. A social instinct in the parameters that God intended them to be. Based on principles. So what happens then? Well, it feels good to satisfy the social instinct, right? It's supposed to. That's why God makes it feel good, so we'll do it. And I get you. Everybody wants to be liked and accepted. Everybody wants to be part of something or in charge of something, right? I mean, we all want that. And when I get that, I work for it, I sacrifice, I can't be an idiot and you let me be part of something. I can't be an a-hole and then expect you to include me in what you're doing. So maybe I create this fake self. You know? Pastor Dave at CBG talks about the first date self. You know? I create this first date self. You know? And who shows up is not really who I am. To be liked and accepted, I might make up something that I do or that I'm good at. Or I might just say, yeah, me too. I think I shared with you guys before. I heard somebody once say they saw Eric Clapton. I said, yeah, me too. And they said, really? I said, yeah, I never saw Eric Clapton, you know. But I knew that I would be liked and accepted and be part of the crew. And all of a sudden I am. No kidding. Where'd you see him? Pittsburgh. When? I gave him some ass. The lies start flowing. You know, I told him the date, and and then I even told him what he was wearing, and he was drunk, and which wasn't a stretch at that time. In the 70s. I told that lie sober. I mean, it started when I was drinking, but even in recovery, I told people I saw Eric Clapton. I finally did see it. I did, yeah.
With Derek Trucks.
With Derek Trucks, yes. I have witnesses. Pete was there. Yeah.
So was I.
But I'll do anything, say anything, be anything, buy you anything to be liked and accepted. And it's all about the dopamine, right? It's all about the feel good. I feel good when I get liked. So what happens? Pat starts lying about seeing Eric Clapton. Pat starts lying about his qualifications to get a promotion at work. Pat starts telling rumors about this guy so I can get his job. And eventually I put myself in conflict with everybody. They find me out. They find out I'm a fraud. Find out I didn't see Eric Clapton because he wasn't in Pittsburgh on those dates. Somebody freaking investigated. It's my life run on self-will. Puts me in conflict with everybody, eventually. And the material instinct's the same thing. Necessary for our survival, right? We need a roof over our head. We need to provide food. We need to work. We need to make money. It's necessary. And the society kind of tells us what success looks like materially, right? What you should be driving, what watch you should have on your arm, what you should look like. There are billboards telling you this is the norm. I don't look like any of those norms. Telling you, here's what weight you should be. Here's how tall you should be. This is the clothes you should be wearing. This is the watch you should have on. And this is what you should drive. And that's what success looks like. No idea. I had no idea that everything loses its shine. Everything loses its shine. It's never enough. Never enough. But it feels good. Like I got my first car. It felt great. 62 Chevy Bel Air. Inline 6, 2-speed, automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I was in my glory. Earl Shy Blue, if anybody knows what that is. You gotta be from up north, probably to know that. Who were the people down here that had the same thing? You knew their colors when you saw it. There was but never mind. I'm in my glory, driving this 62 Chevy, thinking, man, the girls are gonna like this. Yeah. That was my whole goal in life, by the way, was get the right job, make enough money, get the right car, get the girl. That was the deal. Seemed like everybody had their nice cars. We're getting the girls. But then as soon as I see the 62 Chevy ain't getting the girls that the GTO is getting, I got rid of it. I got rid of the car. Got me a Galaxy 500. V8. Put some headers on that thing. Got it loud, you know? Pull up now, the girls are going to like it now. My buddy's got a souped up Dodge Charger. Pulls up, the girls jump in his car. Never enough. Never enough. The joy of getting the cars is great, but it's just temporary. Just temporary. It wasn't really about that. You know, I want to be like somebody else. I always wanted to be somebody else. I don't know what that is. I mean, what is normal? I just didn't feel normal, you know. I went through so many cars in my life. So many cars. I was like the Tempo story is my favorite, right? I finally got enough money and I saved up, and I got this opportunity to buy a new car. So I go up to Wallace Ford in Delray, and I know there's two salesmen are standing there, and they go, see this guy? We're going to get rid of that Tempo on the back lot that we've been trying to get rid of, right? They sold me a fully loaded Ford Tempo, right? And I was so happy with it. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Power windows. I'm playing with them on the way from Delray to North Lauderdale. I can't wait to show my friends. Power seat, you know. I mean, AC, you know. Oh, my God, this is a bomb. I get there, and my buddy Walt looks at the car. He says, who the hell buys a fully loaded Ford Tempo? You know? That's an old man's car. Right? I liked that car for 20 freaking minutes. You know? I got rid of it. I got rid of it. I bought a 4Runner. What a manly vehicle. What am I supposed to have, Walt? What kind of car should I have? Get a truck or a SUV. Something manly. I drive a Tundra now. Big ass truck. It's an intimidating son of a bitch. Gets me out of the Panther games, man. My wife calls me a road bully.
My wife.
Everything loses its shine. Everything loses its shine. I saved my whole life to get a house, to buy a house in Coral Springs. You know? And it was in the early 80s where you could put 5% down. I had to come up with 5. I worked my ass off day and night. And it was difficult because there was a cocaine habit attached to it. You know? and so when you're spending $300 a day on cocaine, it's hard to save $5,000. You know? But I was able to buy this house in Coral Springs. I mean, my dream, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, pool, you know, nice. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm a homeowner. My brother bought a house 4 or 5 blocks away. His had vaulted ceilings. I got 8-foot freaking ceilings in my house. You know? Walked in his house, this is so much nicer than mine. You know? I was happy for that house for about 2 months. Never enough. It's never enough. It's never the right house. It's never the right car. Never the right job. You know, if you're on your 3rd or 4th job, it's not them. If you're on your 3rd or 4th marriage, it's not them. 3 DUIs, it ain't bad luck. Have a seat. You know. But that's that self-will run riot. That's what they're talking about. Me in charge of my life. That's how it works. Never enough. Never enough. One car to the next car to the next car. One house to the next house to the next house. And that's a sex instinct. There's the drug. There's the driving force behind all of it. Behind the job, the car, the house. There's the driving force.
Bless you.
I put my first date self on there, and I get that relationship together, and we finally consummate that relationship, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. And there's never enough. Why is there never enough? I get hooked on the dopamine. I get hooked on the pleasure, and I become a pleasure seeker. And that even loses its shine. That even loses its shine. And I'll tell you why it does. Because I don't shine it. Right? Because I don't cultivate it. Because I'm a taker. What's in it for me? How much is mine? Why not now? Why not more? And so even though I'm in this relationship that should be satisfactory, I start looking outside the relationship for more, for different. I have blown up beautiful relationships. Women, a girl I just actually made an amends to my first date ever, my first everything ever. I'm talking from the 70s. Was able to make an amends recently because she just came out of nowhere on social media. Yeah. Should have married her. But I couldn't not seek more. I couldn't. There was enough. But I suffer from more. And it just it just blew up almost every relationship I've ever been in. It's clear that a life that I'm in charge of, that self-will, a life run on my self-will, can hardly be a success. On that basis, on my basis of running my life, I am in collision with everybody and everything. That behavior creates what we're going to talk about next week, this spiritual malady. It creates this internal condition. We can label it guilt, remorse, shame, anger, fear. We can put all kind of labels. Anxiety, we can label it whatever you want. But that gets so intense that I go back to my favorite paragraph and say, F it. F it. I can't stand the way I feel for one more second. And I'm blaming you. I'm blaming them. They just don't understand. One little mistake. Yeah. No, Pat, there was 4. The book describes the real problem. It tells me what's really killing me. It says that I am selfish. I am self-centered. I'm a self-seeker, driven by fear, self-delusion, self-pity, 100 forms of fear. 100 forms of fear. And unless I overcome that, unless I change that behavior, I am doomed to an alcoholic death. And there's no way of me doing it on my own. There's no way of me reeling in those instincts without God's help. It says we must have God's help or it will kill us. Those are the words of the book. It will kill us. That self will run riot. I love that line, right? That's one of my favorites in the book, too. How many times have I said that, right? We are extreme examples of self will run riot. Do you know what the next line is? Right? But we don't think so. No, I'm not. I'm a giver. No, I'm not. I'm a victim. Right? He just don't understand. Nobody understands me. Delusion, illusion, obsession, insanity. That's what I'm insane. I'm insane. My thinking is so flawed. There's no principles in my life. No principles guiding my life. My life is guided by pleasure. If it's pleasurable, I'm going for it. I don't even think about the consequences till later or till I'm facing them. And then I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did it again. Your Honor, honey, believe me this time. I was incapable. Incapable of living a life based on principles. And I could say spiritual principles, but I think that's what we all know we're talking about, right? The God within, the part of you that knows that it knows that it knows, that part of you that knows it's freaking wrong, but alcohol will justify it. Alcohol will give me the courage to walk through that fear. A part of us is a soul. There's a part of me, every time I did anything like that, knew it was wrong. And I weighed pleasure or principles, and I took pleasure every time over principles. Every time. And alcohol would give me absolution later on. Alcohol drove me into it, said, go for it. It's going to be okay. And when we came on the other side, and facing the divorce or facing the charges, or facing separation, alcohol would give me absolution afterwards. Here's the third step. The third step, prayer, validates this. This is the how, why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided to hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we were going to pass to freedom. There's the third step. He is the principal. I am the agent. He is the father. I am the child. I need to live a life based on that, based on principles. And the third step validates that. Am I willing to do that? Am I willing to live a life based on spiritual principles? Am I willing to live a life based on what is right? Doing what is right for everybody, not just what makes me feel good, but what is right for everybody. What's right for my children? What's right for my wife? What's right for my family? What's right for my employer? My fellow workers? My co-workers? What's right for everybody, not just what feels good for me or what's in it for me. Because that's all I ever asked. What's in it for me? How much is mine? What about me? They're telling me if I don't give that up, I am doomed to an alcoholic death. And that's the decision we're making. Are we going to seek this power that's going to guide my life? based on principles. We'll talk more about that next week, but let's close this meeting with the third step prayer. How do you think? Please. Okay? God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Thank you very much.
Thank you.